All right, the time is 6:01, and I'm calling to order a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sunset Valley, Texas, for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. And just as a couple of notes before we get into the agenda, we do have a time certain item at 6:30, Council, which we're going to be in the executive conference room for executive session. So if we don't get through our staff reports, we'll pause, go into that so we can meet with the TML lawyer. And the other thing I was just going to note is I hope everybody had a nice holiday. It's been a little while since we've seen each other, but it's nice to be back. And also want to thank staff for their vigilance this weekend while we had some threat of severe weather. Certainly thankful that we're not seeing any impacts like we did in the previous year or the years 2021. But we do have some more freeze coming tonight to make sure that we're not going to be at risk for any of the facilities, but appreciate Public Works and Police Department being here on site to monitor and make sure that there weren't any leaks in the preparation that went into that. So I just want to note that as well. So we're going to go move into our agenda. I'll begin with public comments. We do have one open town hall comment, which is related to agenda item number 10. So if you haven't read that yet, please try to do so between the meetings. And of course, if they want to, if we need to speak to agenda item number 10, we can pull that from the consent items as well. With that, I'll open it up for members of the public that wish to speak at this time for any items that are either on the agenda or not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm Dan Horgan. I live at 3 Pillar Road. It's a pleasure to address you tonight. This is something I'm sure we could all agree on. It's something that's been discussed for many years, and just about everywhere I go, either the gym or the HEB, people are talking about it on either side of the aisle. They're talking something that our forefathers left out of. The most crucial part of it all was to have a fresh idea and to remain a city under 700 people and to remain diverse. You want diversity. I've suggested it before. Wasn't but about 15 months ago. I'll suggest it again. And that is to take the old out and replace it with the new. Make America great again by term limits. There are people up here that have been here for 12, 14 years. And that to me is a crime. And that should be addressed immediately. I think that government is very important, that we all follow in and learn our place. That maybe perhaps a little guidance, I could help you write your laws to a 2-year term limit per candidate. Let them serve proudly. After that, you got to hit the road, man, for about a year. You come back to us with some fresh ideas. That's all I really have for you tonight. Lived here a long time, 1976. Got here, you know, American family, man, growing up. Very little to eat. Wore my brother's hand-me-down clothes to get where I'm at today, so I can tell you this. I'm a proud American. You got a border war that's your government, your president is raging against your governor. I'm here for Greg Abbott. He's in a wheelchair, man. He's handicapped. Okay? The last time I vote for him because he had a chance to secure the border. Well, he hasn't, and I'm going to go secure it. If you can't figure out how to produce some term limits and give us a fair opportunity, so when you see me, I create something fair for you, that's an even exchange. That's what you want. In America, all people are coming all over the world to get here, leaving their trash all over the place.
Thank you. If anybody else wishes to speak, please step up to the podium. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, which is staff reports, beginning with the administration report. So if you want to continue speaking, you have another minute or two that you can address the council. But, you know, step up to the podium, please. That way we can record any conversation. Yeah, so the answer is that any council member can propose an agenda item or sponsor an agenda item. So I would reach out directly to council members for engagement to see if they want to sponsor such an agenda item. And if not, then it won't become before council. So that's the process. Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to the city administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. Just wanted to highlight a few items since we do have that 6:30 time certain item. The Board of Adjustment has completed recommendations to changing the variance findings. They've been working really hard the past couple of months, and they've solidified their recommendations. So the next process to that is, because it's an amendment to the zoning section of the Land Development Code, it has to go through 2 public hearings, one at the Zoning Commission and one at here at City Council for the final approval. So that'll be coming down the pipe. We're going to have legal review those changes to the findings, but staff appreciates the board. They did a lot of hard work, and we had several work sessions. So another thing to point out is next Tuesday there is the second round of public feedback for the Reimagine Brody project. And MEND has completed their conceptual design. There will be a survey. This is the second survey that will be opening on January 23rd. But there will be a meeting here at City Hall. I believe it starts at 6:30 to 8. It'll be led by MEND. City staff will be here as well. And rather than having a separate meeting for the committees, we're just going to send an invite. Well, the notice has already gone out to through eye contact to all residents. But we're also going to be inviting the committee members. So any member of the public and any committee or commission member is welcome to join that meeting to hear the presentation from MEND and to give feedback and ask questions. And then I did want to point out, I included the sales tax report. We're seeing, the trend is, again, not as good as last year's numbers. However, when you do look at the, this report includes the crime control. Again, this report does not. So when you look at the crime control, that brings the total monthly collections to about 621,000, 15,000 over our budgeted amount. So we've received, as of January, a third of the projected budget for sales tax, and we're above budget by 1.2%. So we are below actual revenues from last fiscal year, but we are above the budget. So just wanted to report that.
Any questions for the administration report? Right. Moving on to Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to highlight a couple other things on the Public Works report. So Planning and Environmental will be hosting a showing of a movie called Kiss the Ground this Friday at 6:30. Make sure you've RSVP'd for that movie night there. And also just a reminder that we do have wastewater averaging, and we're still asking people, especially on wells, to conserve water throughout the area. That although it seems like we've had rain and stuff like that, we are still in droughts, and there still is a water shortage around here. And I will just open it up if there's any questions on anything else on the report right now.
Any questions for Public Works? All right, moving on to Public Safety.
Good evening. I will cover there was a rash of car burglaries. I've got a lot of, well, not a lot from, I got a lot of emails from one resident about the incident, but he had spoken to numerous residents. And during the early morning hours of January 4th, there was a group of teenagers that were captured on video that went down basically every street over near the university, the elementary school, and were breaking into cars. Happened on Lone Oak, Reese, Pillow, and Sunset. We used our city cameras we knew the time it occurred, so we were able to look at our city cameras, and there was only a handful of cars that were traveling at that early hour of the morning. So we've already located a potential suspect vehicle. We still have a ways to go in the investigation. I think the police department could have done more to, a lot of residents were kind of unnerved by it. And normally we would have put out some information on that we know these have occurred and that we have some suspect information on it. It just so happened, it happened while I was away from town. We had a number of officers taking vacation. It just kind of slipped off. But normally when these things happen, we will try to get that information out so that people aren't wondering whether or not we know about it. And I know it caused quite a bit of alarm, and we'll certainly work on being more communicative about those things. But we do have a suspect, but there's a lot more to go in the investigation. Also, we are working on a retail theft meeting in February. I'm trying to get a speaker to come in for a meeting to discuss kind of the impact that retail theft has on our city and on the area and the state. Haven't nailed it down yet, but we're expecting to do that sometime in February. Any questions?
Any questions for public safety? All right. Well, we did get through our staff reports rather quickly, so we'll move on to our consideration of agenda items for approval on consent, since we have some time before our time certain item. And so, Councilmember Rosengard?
I move to approve on consent agenda items number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
So the motion is to approve on consent items number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Since I believe that we have one of the persons that had the OpenGov, I'm going to go ahead and pull item number 10 so we can take public comments on that one. Any other items that anyone wishes to pull at this time? All right, is there a second for the motion to approve on consent item number 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12? A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, we approved on consent item number 7, approval of the minutes from the December 13th, 2023 special called meeting and December 19th, 2023 regular meeting. Item number 8, approval of a temporary special use permit for the Sunset Valley Arts Commission for use of the Tony Berger Center to host Art Fest on April 27th, 2024. Please mark your calendars for that event. Item number 9, authorization for city staff to apply for performance support grant funds from the Texas Commission on the Arts to support hiring musicians for Art Fest 2024, and authorize the mayor to execute contracts for Art Fest 2024. Item number 11, approval of a purchase of 2 DJI Mavic 3 commercial drones, and approval of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment number 2 for the purchase. Item number 12, approval of the purchase of 3 police department vehicles from Silsby Fleet Vehicles, TIPS, in the amount of $213,676.23, and approval of the ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment number 3 for the repair and replacement fund. All right. So, Council, I believe we still have time in our agenda to go back to agenda item number 10 and hold this one for discussion. Do you want to introduce this one, City Administrator?
Sure. Okay, so these are a couple of ordinance amendments for Chapter 31 relating to the 5 standing committees and the Arts Commission. There's a little bit of a cleanup needed, so we did amend the rules for committees in 2021 to be able to have virtual meetings, and we also took away the requirement of committees to follow strictly the Texas Open Meetings Act, so that committees can collaborate, via email and Google Docs and other things, since these are advisory committees and not making decisions. However, pretty much all the committees now meet in a hybrid format, so they meet in person, but there's a virtual option, which I think is the best. It accommodates the most, both the members and the public that wishes to attend. So we're basically just cleaning up language to address hybrid meetings. Also, we now use Zoom, and the meetings are recorded on the Zoom cloud. When we were having to post the videos online, it was a lot of work, because you have to basically download the videos, save them somewhere, either on the city server or you know, on the local cloud, and then upload them via Laserfish. It's a lot of work, and it's very rare that someone wants to view a committee or commission meeting. It does occur, but it's very rare. So the easiest way to do that is to just share via Zoom, right? You can, if the video uploads to the cloud, the staff member who hosted the Zoom meeting, they'll have access to it via their Zoom cloud, and they'll be able to share the recording with the resident or member of the public that wishes to view the recording. So that's essentially what we're changing. I do know there was a comment in Open Town Hall that said, in a timely manner. I would recommend leaving that out because, I mean, what is a timely manner? You know, is it 2 hours? Is it 2 days? Is it 2 weeks? So, I mean, generally, I think staff is pretty quick to respond to emails. So it'll be probably most likely an email or a phone call that requests, and then all the staff member has to do is just share that link via Zoom. But again, that's up to you guys. And then the second amendment is basically defining what the staff liaison role is. Danielle worked with Councilmember Medicus on this language, and I can bring the language up. And essentially, it's just defining what the staff liaison role is, what they aren't, and just establishes some guidelines for our staff members that work with these advisory committees and the Arts Commission. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and I'll let the resident that posted the comment speak to this, but I think one of the things that was potentially being asked for was not the timeliness of providing the link when requested, but just posting the link on the website as a default, so that it would, if that's, I don't know if that's something we can do with Zoom cloud recordings, is just post the link as part of next to the minutes or next to where we post the agenda in the minutes for the committee meetings. That way anybody could access it at any time, but the link would just direct it to the cloud hosted recording from Zoom.
So this is the recording, not the link to the actual meeting, right? This is the recording?
Yes, the link to the recording, post that on the website. Is that something we could do?
Yeah, but
as a matter of practice?
typically minutes are approved at the next month's meeting.
Mhm.
So then that link wouldn't be recorded till because generally, I mean.
Yeah, when we update the website with the minutes, would
Yeah.
it be sufficient to just also post the link to the recording at that time? And that's maybe something we could ask residents for feedback.
Yeah.
But if it's just a link to the Zoom recording anyway that we're providing, if it's available on our public website, that would be, as a matter of practice of posting it along with the minutes, that might be a useful way of providing that without having to get, staff to respond to requests. It wouldn't be going through the process of actually uploading it to YouTube and conversion and those things. But I'll open up for council feedback, but also for public comments here in a minute. Councilmember Young, or Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to reinforce what your request is there, Mr. Mayor, that I think that all meetings should be posted on the website and they should be publicly available. They're part of the public record, and it's the kind of transparency that we should have for our city. I know that when I was chair of the Finance Committee, I frequently would go back and refer to previous meetings just to make sure that I recorded things right and understood exactly what had happened in that meeting. I realize that it's not often, but one thing staff should think about is, suppose we have a meeting that's for an emergency or is controversial. Do you really want to deal with 5, 10, 20 requests for that meeting? Or would you just rather post it once on the website?
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. Reed, did you want to go? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Reed.
It's okay. I also, as a programmer, I was like, this has to be automated already. And it's worth checking out to see. I found one where it's like a Zoom plugin where it just automatically uploads it to YouTube. Then we're kind of like, even if it doesn't end up on our website, it'll end up on our YouTube channel. And I think it's like I'm hoping it is just like, as soon as it is done and you hit stop, it just uploads. And you're kind of like, hopefully y'all don't even have to do anything. I will send this, or we can like play around with it. Just anything that we can take off of like the manual steps at
Yeah.
the beginning.
And we're gonna have to look at solutions for storage, like increasing our we're probably gonna have to get Zoom Enterprise, because with how many videos a month, and people turn on their cameras, so this is a lot of videos we're gonna be
Well, Splain
uploading to the
sorry, well, this
cloud,
one is called
so-
Splain, but like the idea is that it just uploads it to YouTube,
Right.
and you can just
And then
And
Zoom
then
will
does it have
automatically
to-
delete
does it
the
have
old
to-
ones.
Yeah, does it? I guess we'll research this, but yeah, because already we're going to have to talk to Zoom about solutions for increasing our cloud, because I think the mayor and I we've used up about 50% of our cloud, and that's from 2 years worth of meetings, and not all being recorded. So
Yeah. But this solution sounds like YouTube being a more permanent
Yeah.
place to host it. If it can be done automatically,
Yeah.
then we could leave the current Zoom license as is, and it would
Yeah.
just roll through the old recordings, I imagine, but we'd want to confirm that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to be hitting our limit at some point. But yeah, I think we can look at that as an option if it's something that can doesn't take staff time to do. Councilman Rosengarten?
I was wondering, don't we already do some YouTube videos, like budget and finance? I know we're recorded.
Right. So, recordings of committees really began once we started having virtual meetings. There was sometimes during the budget season when, because used to we only had abilities to record in here, and the recording was not so great for both council and anything that was recorded. So once the pandemic hit and all the committees and council even started meeting virtually, we started recording everything. So used to committee meetings were never recorded prior to the pandemic. Minutes were kept, but not recorded. I believe sometimes there may have been audio recordings, but for many years, I
I
never
als-
knew of committee meetings being recorded.
also
But then, but sometimes we would record budget and finance
Yes.
meetings. I do remember that
We'd always be
during
on
the
video.
budget process.
Yep.
But then after COVID and when meetings were virtual, we started recording everything, and this was when we were using GoTo, and then the meetings would be if they were recorded, you'd have to download them and then upload the link to the website. So YouTube, I think, would be a better, since we're already storing our council and zoning commission meetings there. I think that would be a better
And
way. And if it's automated, that'd be great.
I also know that in Public Works, we used to just do audio, period, not video.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think one thing that is also worth getting feedback on is this is proposed for hybrid meetings where we have the technology to easily record, because most committees are not meeting in chambers. If a committee chooses to meet entirely in person, I don't know if we want to record that. If so, we'd have to have them move into a room with recording versus having it, for example, in the conference room where we do not have the recording capability. So there may be a discrepancy. I think hybrid meetings are easy to record, but we don't necessarily have a clear way of recording completely in-person meetings that are outside of council chambers at this time. And I'm not sure that we're entirely interested in that. If we are, that's something we'd have to look at getting a solution for as well, or having committees always meet in a council chamber. So,
Well, Mayor, we are going to, the conference room, we do want to make it the official committee meeting room.
okay.
And I'm working with Univista on getting a powerful enough speaker/microphone that will allow for a hybrid meeting. Because right now, if you try to have a hybrid meeting in that room, it's really difficult for people participating remotely to hear in that room. So that's why that's why you'll see a lot of committees meeting in Public Works conference room right now, because that room is small enough and the mic can pick everybody up. So Univista is working with me on getting a solution for that, for the conference room.
Other questions before I open up for public comments?
And we're getting really close to our,
Time certain item, okay.
yeah.
Let's quickly take public comments, and if we need to, we can come back to this topic as well.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Melissa Gonzalez, 26 Reese. I really do hope that you get the conference chamber up as soon as possible. I didn't realize that it would be as bad as it was when I made travel plans. And so I would really like to be able to attend the meeting, and I like left early so that I could, you know, get a hotel room so I could actually make the meeting. And then I hear that it's really awful for people in that conference room and that it's almost going to be pointless to attend. So that's not a you know, a good feeling for us. I hope perhaps they'll move it to a place that we can hear. But I do think that it should, certainly all of finance should be immediately available, because there are just, even with the best of intentions, I mean, there were certainly, I will say that I'm a person who, up until recently, reviewed many committee meetings a month on the website and noticed things missing from them. And so I think it's very important that we have that. I don't think we have the problems that we had, so I don't feel the need to have to check all these things, but there's certainly periods, and you don't know when you're not going to have periods. And I think perhaps if we set a time limit of how long we have to have this and check with legal to see how long we have to do retaining of the records that we create, that would be useful, because I don't know the answer to that. So because, you know, I am aware that it'll cost us money to store things, and I would obviously rather the city didn't have to spend unnecessary money. But at the same time, the things that Burton and I were doing, we thought they were going to be available, so we went to go look and they weren't there. And it was a presentation that he had missed the committee meeting, and I don't trust my memory anymore. And so you want to see what these things are, or they're complicated, and you may have to hear them a second time. So anytime we're doing presentations, I think it's really important, especially with like MEND presentations, that we have good audible recordings of this, and for other people, so we can tell them there were many contentious meetings in the BOA, and you know, things like that. And I said, you need to see that what was said here, and you know, recordings weren't available. And so I think that those are the kinds of things that we want to be careful about. So certainly commission meetings, Board of Adjustment, and all those kinds of things, we need to have access to that. And it needs to, and we need to be able to go back and say, no, here you said, you know, and before, in the previous ones, they said the minutes aren't even the minutes, the recording is the minutes. So if we don't have that anymore, we no longer have our real minutes, because that was the way that the previous city administrator was representing, is that the meeting itself was the minute. And so now we're getting rid of our records and they're not available. So I just think we need to think about this a bit more. Thank you so much for your time.
And I believe, just as a clarification for council and members of the public, is Board of Adjustments and Zoning Commission, because they meet in council chambers, those are being recorded and provided, and that practice is going to continue regardless, because those are essentially more legal entities, and they also are in the areas that can facilitate that, even if they're just totally in person. But it's the committees that, you know, I think, because they have variable meeting areas. My apologies, but we will have to come back to this item because we do have a time certain at 6:30. So if other members of the public can hang on until we get back from our executive session, we will reopen this item. So if I can get a motion at this time to table this item until we return from executive session, and then a motion to go into executive session. Councilmember Medicus.
Motion to table this item until after the executive session, and motion to go into executive session. Can I do them both together?
I believe so. Yeah. And is there a second for that motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? Okay, here we go. right, the time is 7:04. We're returning to open session. And we're going to resume our discussion of agenda item number 10. And we'll open it back up for public comments on this item.
Thank you all very much. Make sure I can talking loud enough into this thing. I did write on this matter. I think that obviously our goals always are to make incremental improvements in our governance the best we can, if not major improvements. And I want to review here this just for a minute. According to the city's website, standing committees are to, and this is quote direct from the city's website, serve in an advisory capacity to assist and make recommendations to council and department heads. They research, develop, implement, and evaluate policies, programs, and projects according to approved city council goals. This is the charge to our standing committees. As the standing committee, though, does research, which means that you learn new things, they develops and implements and evaluates policies. They may have suggestions, I feel, regarding important timely matters that may not always align absolutely with council goals. This is because council goals, I think, are set once a year, and there can be changes in the environment around here, changes in Austin, etc., that may require suggestions. Also, as we do research in our committees, we may come up with things that the council was unaware of before, and therefore, could be made aware of. So they're part of our past situation. It's important, I think, then, that the wording of our description of the duties of the standing committees regarding the city's council goals does not restrict the committee's functions as described above. In other words, we do need to be allowed to do open research and evaluation of policies that may not exactly hit the current goals on the head. So therefore, regarding Ordinance 3119, Section N, I recommend removal of this wording, in quotes, or this wording right here, that the city council liaison's job here is partially to advocate for the city's interests while ensuring committee initiatives align with the overall vision and goals of the municipality and the city council. I recommend that removal because I believe that that's a paraphrase of the charge that we make to the standing committees themselves. I mean, that's what they know they're supposed to do. They're supposed to advocate for city's interests in their particular areas. They're also to make sure their initiatives align with overall goals. Like we've been told that that's what we're supposed to do, and therefore I think we already know that. Also, I'm confused a little bit because it says here, align with overall vision and goals of the municipality and the city council. Are there goals that the municipality has that are separate from those of the city council? I don't understand. Is that true?
No, I don't believe so, but the wording there is something I haven't reviewed, so I'd want to look at that a little bit more and see how it aligns with what's on the website, but also what's in the rest of the section.
Okay, all right. So I think that portion is not necessary, as it's already a function of our standing committees. It's also a function of the city council as a whole. Now, this is important. The city council as a whole, not solely the function of the liaison, to evaluate the relevance of suggestions generated by the standing committees regarding the city council's goals. In other words, a liaison being charged with evaluating, does this suggestion made by a committee meet the goals? Other committee members, other city council members may have different ideas about whether or not that particular suggestion made by that committee aligns with goals. And therefore, I think that since the committees are to inform the council, then the council as a whole needs, I think, to make a judgment about whether or not particular suggestions align with goals completely or not enough or whatever. I think that's a charge to the entire city council to look into that kind of thing. So those ideas also apply to section N6, N, comma 6, and therefore I think that N, comma 6 is doesn't really need to be there as well. We have, since I've served on the P&E committee, the council liaisons we have dealt with have been spectacular, extremely helpful, have made sure that we are very well informed of what's going on in council, and they serve a very, very valuable function. And I noticed in the introduction to these changes that the description of the liaison was basically to transfer information between the council and the committees. And I think that is really the role of the liaison, more than anything else. So I want to thank you guys, and if you want to ask questions, I'll stay for a sec, or whatever you want to do.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Medicus, as largely as the sponsor, the writer of this text here, I don't know if you wish to, but addressing the language that's included in the liaison introductory portion of 31.19N. I believe that in terms of my vision for the liaison role, this is in alignment because we are, as a council, setting our priorities, right? We do that primarily once a year, but we're also doing that through the votes we take on a regular basis at every council meetings, and those priorities are mutable, based on circumstances. They're not just fixed in terms of one time. But my understanding or my interpretation of the language is really, we do have these overall goals that we reaffirm, we set, we monitor throughout the years. We take a time during the calendar to meet and discuss them, but it doesn't prevent us from making updates or revisiting them during our council discussions about specific agenda items. And so for me, I think the language is not intended to be something that's restrictive of the committees. It's really that the liaison is there to make sure that the committees know what those goals and those visions are, so that there can be a better alignment. And I believe that was the intention that you had with the language, but I'm happy to let you discuss that as well.
Yeah, it was quite a few years ago when we reviewed this and actually came up with the liaison goals, because we really had no direction and nothing that said, okay, as a council member, what is my role as a liaison to a committee or a commission? And so that's why we established that, and mainly it was for two-way communication. And then since then, so the council in retreat usually looks at goals and objectives for the year, and then the liaison works with the committee chair and vice chair to set the committee goals. And basically it's just a couple goals, no more than 3, that align with the goals of the city. And then the committee is free to bring up other ideas, and a lot of the new ideas that come forward are generated by the different committees. And it's the role of the council liaison to bring those forward to council for discussion and consideration, and to work with the chair and the vice chair and the committee members to hear what is coming up, what's bubbling up, what needs to change. Maybe when we started the year and did our goals, we thought this is the direction we wanted to go, but we don't want those to be static because things change, and so it has to be fluid. And that role the liaison has keeps that fluid communication going both ways.
That's one thing that I feel would really, really help right there. The idea that the goals are not meant to be restrictive of information flow to council. And I think that's important, that the goals are meant to be sort of guidance for things that we should be looking at for sure. But I think we should add that language so there aren't other people becoming new members of committees that get confused about whether those goals are restrictive or whether they do have flexibility to allow that information flow. And that would be I think, a very good change to make. Thank you all very much. As always, it's always very good.
One thing I try to avoid, and always cringe when we do it, is like real-time editing of of items, because that can lead to errors, and it's no fun to do that as a group. If council feels like that we want to amend this language before we move forward with it, we might bring this back. However, you know, if the council feels that this language is appropriate, we can move forward with, you know, approval. Councilmember Rosengard?
I would like to ask if we could approve as written and then bring it back and look at it again
Okay.
with whatever recommendations.
So the direction being that we can approve the changes, but the acknowledgement that there may, based on the feedback, that we may make some amendments.
May look at it again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So bring it back as a future item.
I move to approve as written.
Is there a second for that, to approve the changes, and I believe with the intention to reevaluate it and bring it back
And
for?
reevaluate in the future, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second, yeah.
Let's go ahead and open it up for discussion. Councilmember Medicus?
So, to make sure that we made the change about the recordings, what did we do with that? Is that part of the change that?
So
said with
there was no,
changes?
there was no, there was language in the code that it had to be recorded, but that's it. It didn't say it had to be posted or anything. So now at least the language says the recording must be made available. I think as a part of this reevaluation, I want to work with staff and take Councilmember Johnson's suggestion and just look at options for
Opportunities to do
streamlining
that.
streamlining both the recording and uploading of the video, and if there's a way we can do it where, you know, we utilize YouTube. So I think the language written is now, you know, if a resident or member of the public needs to get access to the video, staff is now required to provide that, right? We can send them the Zoom link, but I'm going to be, you know, working with staff and looking at options to streamline that
Okay.
process.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that
just want to make sure that was clear.
the motion, it can stand, but we'll provide direction to staff to look at solutions for posting the link on the website, whether it's, you know, something that's automated and it's available via YouTube, or something that'll link directly to the cloud. So,
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I was going to say, I'm fine with the motion to move forward, but I do have a fairly minor edit that I would like to get in there when we reconsider this.
Yeah, please go ahead and make that suggestion. We can, if it's if very, very minor, then I don't mind.
You mean right now, as opposed to providing it to staff later?
Well, if it's part of the motion, I mean, providing it to staff later, you know, council hasn't had a chance to evaluate it, so I don't want to preclude the chance for it not to get included. Do you want to bring up the document so we can take a look at the edit and we can make it part of the motion with edits?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in section 3119 N6. And the friendly amendment I'd like to make is to change, says acts as a vocal advocate for the city's interests, which maybe is a little strong and possibly could be misinterpreted, to something like represents the city's broader interests within committee discussions.
So the proposed change would be, instead of saying acts as a vocal advocate for the city's interests, represents the city's interests within committee's discussions.
Represents the city's broader interests.
Broader
committee
interests within
discussions,
within committee discussions.
which I think is the intent of the original sentence.
And so then what would be the difference?
The difference would be, instead of saying acts as a vocal advocate for the city's interests, it would be represents the city's broader interests.
I know, but we both agree that both sentences are the same, saying the same thing. Just one meaning
I think that saying vocal advocate is
for the
a
city's
little strong
interests.
and possibly could be misinterpreted.
Too strong on, yeah, just.
Okay?
I'm
You all are
I'm
fine
comfortable
with
with
it?
that.
I'm fine with it.
So
I
this,
accept the friendly amendment.
so this is how it reads, and correct me, it represents the city's broader interests. Right?
Correct.
Correct? Okay. And it would be the same, and let me go ahead and change it in the Arts Commission.
Yeah, the Arts Commission.
I assume the friendly amendment applies to all the repetitious sections within
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
document.
working on it right now.
Motion maker and second, are you okay with that proposed
I
changes?
approve.
To the board? Yeah. Okay. All right, so the motion would be amended with the change identified by the Mayor Pro Tem.
I've got it on both chapters,
And the
both sections.
direction to staff is not only I was almost gonna ask if we could see what was being suggested up there, because like I had a hard time kind of like following like what the change was. So I'm not saying let's do anything now, but maybe I'll just ask you like later, like what you were kind of like looking for here, because I didn't follow it at all.
Yeah, but I think there was some change with the dialogue that said, including the, you know, the council is not being restrictive in its, you know, adherence to the city's policy or the city's visions and goals, and it's to inform and support the committees in meeting those goals. But that kind of language we don't really have in front of us, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we
Yeah, I'm
actually,
not suggesting it for here, but I just wanna, I wanna revisit just because it could be a really good idea.
Councilor Medicus?
I believe, and it's been a while since I looked at them, but our goal worksheets for the committees, I believe that's actually some of the language in there.
Okay.
I can pull that up and we can bring it forward. I'll share it with staff later.
Okay, that'd be good, and we can bring that back as a future agenda item for proposed language changes to that section. Okay.
And just as a note, we probably do need a review because I don't think any committee is submitting quarterly reports to council. So we're trying to get back onto that. So that may be also something we maybe change to annual or so, you know, something, or biannual or something. So that needs to be revisited too.
I think
So
Wanda
I
used to
tried
do
to
it.
get, we tried to get back on that schedule last year, and then it's difficult. So.
Any further discussion on this before we vote on the motion? I certainly appreciate members of the public's input on this, and with that, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right. And we'll continue to work with staff on those updates that we discussed. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Council, that takes us to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 13. Consider an act on approval of an agreement with Granicus to implement their Gov Delivery and Engagement HQ platforms for city communications, and approval of an ordinance amending fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. This would be budget amendment number 4 since we passed the other ones. Council, you also should have received an updated quote from the city administrator regarding what's in the backup. There's been an update to that because we did ask if Granicus could meet us at a lower price point for the contract. And so with that, I'll hand it over to the city administrator for introduction of this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is an item that we introduced during the council retreat. There's been several issues, both internal, and we've received comments from the public about issues with eye contact. You know, the city's used that for many, many years, as long as I can remember. And, you know, it's very cost effective, but it only could go so far. And so we're looking at a system that's has a much higher and more robust deliverability rate. We also want to utilize a system that allows for SMS and text message options. Staff feels that Granicus, given that they already provide our website, that we want to continue working with them. I think the website is great, and we want to work with them utilizing their Gov Delivery and Engagement HQ products. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't know if any of you were able to look at some of the examples that they sent, but I was just going to pull up, for example, so this is the city of Cedar Hill. It's a city in Texas. And this link is on their website. Obviously they use Granicus. You can see the build's kind of like ours. So this is for their residents and members of the public that want to, sorry, it's probably really hard for you guys to see. But, you know, they've got a capital impact fee committee and a city council agenda, planning and zoning. And so you can sign up either by email or by text message. And the nice thing about Gov Delivery, so unfortunately we will not be able to do like an import from eye contact. They said we could import contacts and then send messages, but I think it's going to be cleaner if we have the resident or member of the public fill out the form, because they'll be able to customize, okay, what information do I want to receive and how do I want to receive it? This is the Engagement HQ. So theirs is called Let's Talk Cedar Hill. Granicus will work with us on what we want to call our engagement website. So they have, you know, projects listed. What we would do is work with Granicus when we're building out Engagement HQ to, one of these projects would be City Council, right? Because, and then you can go, you would click on this, and this is where we would upload agendas, and we wouldn't have necessarily Q&A, but we would have the public comment forum designed this way. So we would be, rather than having, right now with Open Town Hall, we create a new topic for every single council meeting. This way, there would be one page with one link that this is where council agendas would be posted, and then the public can engage. The Granicus folks let us know that during the implementation and during the build out, they would work with us on, you know, on designing the page. But we think we could utilize this for capital improvement projects. Currently, you know, we have pages on our city website that we're using, but Carolyn and I were looking at some of these features, and we think this is a much better system to put projects, capital improvement projects, parks and open space projects. There was an issue came up at a committee meeting recently where, you know, some folks felt they just didn't have enough information about the status of certain projects. We think that utilizing something like Engagement HQ, where we could, you know, when council makes a decision and a task order moves forward, this is where all of that information could live. And residents are also, or members of the public are also able to register and then make comments. And let's see, I was going to show you one more item. So let's say we wanted to sign up for this. Oh, that's not the wrong, let's register, here we go. So your username. Oh, and one thing I wanted to report, because I did ask Granicus, unfortunately at this time, they are two separate products. And so if you sign up for GovDelivery, you also have to create a sign-in for Engagement HQ. So you do have to create, they're hoping to one day, you know, merge the two, that you'll just have one login, but right now, the resident or member of the public would have to sign up for their GovDelivery notifications, but they'd also have to register for Engagement HQ, which residents have had to do for Open Town Hall via OpenGov. But here, Granicus can collect this type of information. Obviously, you create your account. You can collect demographic data. You know, what's your connection to Cedar Hill? I live here, I work here, I own a business, I visit. And then if you live in Cedar Hill, which is your neighborhood? And so, you know, we could drill down even to like the streets, or I live in the Meadows or something. So I think there's a lot more opportunity to collect information, and then you can tailor like what kind of, you know, if we need to send a message to the Meadows, we can send a message just to the Meadows via text or something if it's really critical. So I think this gives us a lot more options than what we currently have, definitely with eye contact, and gives us more options than what we have with OpenGov. Anything else, Danielle, we want to add? No? Okay.
Let's see, we'll start with Councilmember Rosengarten and then to Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, I know that the Public Works Director has put together a very extensive CIP format. Would that be able to be embedded within this new program that you're talking about? But you won't have to redo everything again. Okay. Okay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Sure. First of all, did anyone look at the pool in Cedar Hill?
I should not have used that. Don't look.
Had a lazy river. Had a crazy water slide. Awesome. Yeah, I had to check out the population. They do have 45,000 people, so okay.
Maybe a sauna for this time of year. That's what we.
Yeah, there we go. So we'd be able to get rid of Open Town Hall completely.
and as a aside, Open Town Hall is going away. We are not continuing with OpenGov. I did reach out, you know, the mayor and I had a discussion that what would we do as a potential stopgap if we sign if council approves and we sign the agreement with Granicus tomorrow, there's a 4 to 6 week time period before we'd even begin implementation, and then it's, you know, 2 to 3 months. So we would be without the contract for Open Town Hall, OpenGov, ends in, I believe it's February 22nd, and we're not renewing. So from, you know, mid-February to potentially mid-May, we would not have a way for publicly residents to post, right? Residents are always, or members of the public can always email council, but I think the public, you know, when we talked about taking away Open Town Hall before, there was a lot of pushback. And I think people like when they post something, they like that, hey, everybody has seen this. It's in the public forum, right? So, you know, the mayor and I were discussing it. Is there, you know, I reached out to OpenGov, hey, could we potentially extend our contract for 3 months? And they have not gotten back to me, but I reached out just last week, so.
And how much was all of that? Because I remember
OpenGov, 24 to 28,000.
Yeah, that's very.
But I don't know what part of that is, like when I look at the invoice, it doesn't pull out that, oh, Open Town Hall, or now it's called community feedback, is this much. It's just the OpenGov package is 28.
But all of it
20
is going away.
Going away.
And all of that money we're saving. And I never got the other part of it. I never understood it. Just seemed like a glorified CMS or whatever. iContact is only like $200 a year or something?
Yeah, $350. It's really
$350.
cheap.
And it doesn't do much, so fine.
It doesn't do much.
Chief was just here. Did they have something called Code Red? Did I make that up?
Yeah, Code Red has gone away. It was an archaic system, and I mean, I think it served its purpose while we had it, but we did not continue it. And so, you know, since Danielle's come on board, and I know Chief has wanted for a long time to be able to have the text messaging option. I think we really need it, and that Gov Delivery allows the resident to be able to choose. Like, yeah, I want, because you might not want text messages for a council agenda, but you may want it for general notices.
Yeah,
right?
I checked the plan includes like 100,000 text messages, which is 166 per resident per year. So we probably want less than that. So like that's a good service level. I think this is great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Councilmember Medicus?
So I just have a question. When, the nice thing about Open Town Hall is that you see what everybody sees what someone said. In this process, will everybody, if people make those comments, will they be visible to everybody?
So Engagement HQ allows you to have a broad, like, you can make it so that they're private, or you can make it that they're public. You can also make where, and they never recommend this, where anyone can post, or they can make it where you can be unverified and post, or you can make it where it has to be a verified account, meaning someone is registered and their account has been verified by email. To avoid, I think that is to avoid, you know, bots or something making comments. So, but no, they can set it up, you know, where this is, the only difference is, and because I asked them about this is obviously someone's username versus, you know, in the back end, we can see what their name is, but this, you can't see what the person's name is. You know, this is just their username versus on Open Town Hall, it shows their name. So we could provide that to council because staff will be able to see that information on the back end.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff on this? And I really appreciate staff reaching out. Danielle, thank you for reaching out to Granicus and getting them to come down on the price, because that was something I was concerned with when I initially saw the quote. So thank you for that. Councilmember Rosengard?
There were two ways I checked with our accountant previously. There were two ways that we could do this tonight. We could either take funds and do a budget amendment from funds that were set aside for another project, or we could do a budget amendment just for this project. So it stands out clear that this is what we're doing for this budget amendment, and that is the preferred per the accountant. Also on page 72 of 98, I asked to double check the math. So if you look at 13,900 under proposed increase, 5782 line item, could you make that bigger? Okay, 5782 right there, proposed increase, the middle column, you got 13,900. Below that, you got 5,760.
Yep.
The two together should add up to
Oh.
19,660, not 13,900.
Thank you.
So 19,660, yep. Yep.
Okay.
And the one above that should be 19,660
Oops.
also.
Yeah.
And probably the one under.
And the one under it. Sorry about that. I need to change it on the
Yep.
actual.
Yeah, and we'll have to update the
Yeah.
fund balance information as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll make sure it gets updated if it passes.
No, Matt, let's see the map in real time.
Okay.
Councilmember Johnson?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve an agreement with Granicus to implement their delivery and engagement HQ platforms for city communications, and approval of ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment number 4 for the cost of the project.
Is there a second for that? Mayor Protem? Opens it up for further discussion. Any further discussion from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, approved. All right, looking forward to that transition, and we will make sure that we work to have a intermediate solution, whether we can continue the open town hall for a short period, or we provide an alternative for those capturing those public comments. Those are the things that we discussed, I discussed with the city administrator, so.
And we'll be working to, I'm going to work with Councilmember Young, who's been very generous to offer helping me scrub Open Town Hall.
Thank you.
Because OpenGov is refusing to give us
A download of all the
all the
Yeah.
public.
I really appreciate that as well, so
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. All right, council, agenda number 14, consider and act on approval of a resolution adopting new rules and regulations for the city's storage yard and submission of paperwork to TCEQ to begin the notification process for a composting facility and citizens collection station. Who wants to do the introduction for this item?
Don't all jump up at once.
Okay, so we discussed this. We discussed this last time, so we just brought back
The agreement.
some additional. We added some enforcement and a few additional rules. I think we added that. I think this is new, right? That a replacement key card, if lost or stolen, will cost $12. Trying to point out things that are different than from last time. Bulk item dumpster. We added the rules for the metal recycling. Not a lot of rules there. No plastic bag. I had a. Should we add what is allowed in brush, or because I had a conversation with Councilmember Burrell this morning and was wondering the brown paper bags that you fill up with leaves and twigs, really small things. He was asking if that can be in the brush pile, and Carolyn said that is okay. So we may want to add that
Well,
on what is allowed.
you could just type right in bud brush and paper bags.
Brush and brown paper, brown paper bags.
Brush in brown paper bags.
Well, you can just have a pile.
Okay,
So,
however you want to record it.
and then enforcement. So we worked with the city attorney. So the public works director or their designee will enforce the rules for the city storage yard. So we have some violations. You get, first violation warning, second violation 30-day suspension, 1-year suspension, And then repeated violations may result in permanent loss of the storage yard access. And then, again, conferring with the city attorney that if you do, if someone is continually violating the rules, or let's say we have a contractor that, is not a resident and is trying to sneak in or something, we can go for a criminal charge for illegal dumping, because this is a municipal waste station and they're violating the rules potentially. So that could be a violation of the state code. To try to keep it simple, we didn't want to involve council. So since this is the city's, storage yard, the appeals to the enforcement will go to the mayor, and then any appeals would be final. I believe that is all the updates from last time. And then again, the big update is when we last spoke in December, we talked about a potential date of January 15th, which was yesterday, for closing down the storage yard. We just felt that coming out of the holidays, it wasn't enough time to notify the residents. So the proposed closure will begin next Monday, the 22nd. And pending approval of this tonight and approval of the resolution, then we'll start submitting the paperwork to TCEQ.
Councilmember Johnson?
What does daily mean? I had to look up what daily meant. I know what daily means, but if you show up on Saturday, do you expect it to be open? And are we having it open on Saturday?
Yeah, just
Cool.
like it is now. If you have the key card, you'll have access.
Great. And then, is everyone else fine with the enforcement? I mean, it's like 9 strikes, and maybe we'll think about. I don't know. It's just like
First one's free.
first one's free, and you get a copy of this document, and then second one.
Well,
No access for
We're-
30 days.
Yeah, I mean, like,
we're really thinking that just the other, security measures and making sure that, key cards aren't in the hands of contractors are going to cut down on a lot of the abuse that we've seen. So I don't think we'll need to be doing much of the. I hope we don't have to do much of the enforcement. And what were we going to add?
to me, it's a permission structure to call me
nothing should
cynical,
be
but-
placed in this file but brush. Should we just say?
And brush in, brown
Brush, including
container.
leaves and small. So we're clear.
Councilmember Medicus?
So I just go back up, stay on brush for a minute. So I just have a question about the invasive clippings. So, what goes in those brown bags could be leaves, it could be twigs, but it could also be invasive plants. And how many people know what weeds are acceptable and what aren't? And I'm thinking of all the stinging nettles that are everywhere. Do we want those in bags to go in? In the last sentence. And the cactus, how do you enforce it if it's all in a brown bag? Yeah. I just wonder if maybe at some point in our newsletter or something, we could say, Johnson grass looks like this. These are weeds that we don't want to spread, and please don't put them in the some more educational around that. And then I had another, go further up on the, no, I forgot my train of thought. That was the main thing. Oh, let me see, weeds and brush. I don't know, it'll come to me maybe.
After January 19th video, you might not consider anything a weed.
That would, so that that was the other thing, was the camera. We're gonna put cameras, right? So
Yeah, that's a part of
I think
the,
that was in the staff report.
yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's part of the improvements. So,
Okay.
and there's, that we budgeted money for that, so. And we're gonna, there will be in the camera system that we already have for the city facilities.
Good.
So we're also gonna be putting a camera in here, or a camera that will be able to see the chambers, and also a camera in the, conference room too. We have a, court, and the bailiff recommended we have that just so, because the prosecutor will meet with defendants, with the door closed, so it's just an extra security
Good
measure.
idea. Okay. Yep, that's all I have.
I mean, we have executive session in that room. Are we able to turn off the cameras? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Councilmember Burrell?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you remind us what the time duration of the closure is going to be?
Yes, so we estimate that because of the notice requirements, that the brush pile will be closed for 30 days, and the citizens collection station, so basically the bulk item dumpster, will be closed for 90 days. To supplement that, we will be resuming, and we need to send notices out, get info on the website. We will be resuming the end of the month, the last Thursday of the month, curbside brush chipping. So that program is returning. We'll also, during spring cleaning month, be doing several of our, bulk pickups and other activities, if you want. Anything I missed?
Any other questions for staff? All right. Mayor Pro Tem?
I make a motion, we approve a resolution adopting new rules and regulations for the city's storage yard and submission of paperwork to TCEQ to begin the notification process for a composting facility and citizens collection station.
Is there a second? Councilmember Radicus seconds. Any further discussion on that before we take a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, motion passes. Staff, I really appreciate your work on this. I know we started this process many months ago, but I think we've come to a pretty good solution, and it'll be of the benefit of the city in terms of the time we spend for this. So. All right, Council, we have our one final agenda item, which is presentation, discussion, and possible action on the selection of cities to be included in the 2024 Salary and Benefits Survey. And I will let the city administrator introduce this item. I think we're trying to focus on a better approach for making sure that we have a representative selection of cities, but we're looking for council input based on the list that was identified in backup. So with that, I'll hand it over to the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. And yeah, just to echo that, we just want to make sure that, Sunset Valley, we're very unique, but we just want to make sure that we're capturing, when we compare ourselves to other cities and look at other positions and, start looking at things at, staff size and things like that, that we really capture all that we do. And we really do need to have comparable cities so that we can find comparable positions, which is why we crafted this information we provided to you, based on the factors like, we did have things like population. We really tried to, I think there's one city on here with a population of over 50,000. I would not recommend, including cities with over population of 50,000. Is the city an urban enclave? I think that's really important. There's none in Travis County. Some people think Rollingwood actually has, it's surrounded by Austin, but that it also shares a border with Westlake Hills. So it's technically an urban enclave like we are. There are 3 San Antonio cities we included that are. Departments, what departments do they have? Number of staff. I think this is a really critical one. How many acres of parks and green space are managed by the city? As you can see, Sunset Valley manages a lot of acres compared to its size and population. What infrastructure is managed by the city? Water, wastewater, drainage, etc. Solid waste, I think a lot of the cities will be compared to contract out just like we do. And then we included some budget numbers, and I think just as an interest, the percent of their general fund revenue that's derived from sales tax. All of the cities except for Stafford on this list have a property tax. So we in Stafford, I believe, are the only cities in the state that don't collect a property tax. So again, I think I put in my recommendation, I would recommend that we do select, as far as number, you don't want to get fewer than 5, but I don't think you want more than 10. I think we've had, in the last 2 salary surveys, I think there were 9 cities that were looked at. And I think it would be ideal to have some cities within the Austin-Travis County metro area just for, cost of living and other, cost comparisons. But I'm also recommending including some of those, if not all 3, of the enclave cities, Alamo Heights, and then Balcones Heights and Shavano Park. I was familiar with Alamo Heights. I wasn't familiar with Balcones Heights and Shavano Park, and I think they would be good. Just in looking, I don't know if any of you went to the websites, but just looking at those, especially I believe it was Shavano Park, that what their motto was, city living with a country charm or something. I thought that was very, and then they talked about brush pickup. So I was like, this is very similar. So yeah, I'd love to hear possibly what council thinks, or if there's any cities that they'd really like to be included, or any questions you may have. Oh, and if there's TBD on the, I know Barbara Wilson was helping me collect a lot of this data, and some of it you can find on websites or budgets, and others you can't. So if she left messages or whatever, there may be a TBD in some of these cells. So.
Councilmember Rosengard?
What we realize is there's no city that matches us exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you start going down one column, for instance, if you start looking at the general fund budget and going down that, and you say, okay, I'm going to pick everybody that is close to our general fund. Then you look over at the staff number and you go, oh, that throws that out of whack. And then you look at the city size and acreage, and that changes everything. And so it was very difficult to look at that and try to come up with, okay, who's the closest? So I came up with Jonestown, Rollingwood, Westlake Hills, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, Shavano Park, and maybe Westlake Hills. Those are the 7 I came up with. Yes, Jonestown, Rollingwood, Westlake, oh, I have Westlake Hills. There's another one that's a maybe. Bee Caves, I think it was. Westlake Hills, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, Shavano Park, and I got to check my other file and see if it's Bee Caves. While I'm doing that, you can call on anyone else.
To Matt's point, I think it's really important when you look at this and I discovered this when I was calling around to Rollingwood and Westlake for P&E, trying to do some research about the size of the acreage that they maintain, and I think that's a huge issue. The other thing, and they don't maintain hardly anything, and they don't have a lift station, and so I was finding out things like that, so that makes us really unique in a lot of ways, the number of green spaces, the acreage that we maintain. And then the sales tax revenue for me is another one. There's, only one other city that relies on sales tax not even to the level that we do.
Bee Cave.
And that's Bee Cave. So from my perspective, I thought those 2 things need to be taken into consideration, which made me think about we should look at Bee Cave because of the sales tax, and we should look at Buda because of the size of the parks that they maintain. And then the other 2 that I thought about were Lockhart and Lago Vista, just for what it's worth. But I think Bee Cave and Buda need to be in the mix.
Other feedback from council? we could certainly, without exceeding the numbers we had in the past or what is being proposed by the city administrator, include bee caves and Buda, and that would be 8. And then to add to Councilmember Rosengarten's list, and then if we wanted to add Lockhart or Lago Vista, that would be take us to 9 and 10. But that, again, the more work for the city staff to
Right.
get that information. But certainly those 10 have been identified by at least 2 council members.
And Westlake is, your recommendations, because I didn't think Westgate and Rollingwood were comparable. Honestly, they don't do the public works issues that we do. They don't maintain property that we do. They don't have the sales tax base that we do.
They do meet the criteria of being within Travis County, which has.
We've included them in the past, but I would say we would not need to include Westlake, Rollingwood, and Bee Cave. I know we've always included them in the past, but
Let's look at something different.
I think Rollingwood is really difficult just because they just don't have a utility system that they manage and or parks.
Or parks, yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's,
And they do have shopping, but it's significantly less than the kind of revenue that we bring in, which is why there's city is different. I would recommend Bee Cave because of the sale, as Councilmember Medica said, the sales tax. And just as a reminder, I believe we discussed this in the retreat. We won't be looking at least. This will be a civilian. At least the information that Kyle and I will be working on will be a civilian. I mean, we'll include
Not
positions
PD.
like the chief and the lieutenant, but I didn't plan on doing a step kind of program. But the chief may want to add some additional information. So I don't know, Chief, is there, of those 3 cities, Westlake, Rollingwood, Bee Cave, is there one that you'd like to compare to just from the public safety side of things? Or Westlake.
Yeah.
So it would be fine to look at Westlake, Bee Cave, and maybe take off Rollingwood. Okay.
and what about Buda?
I think Buda, obviously it's larger, it's a growing city, but I do agree just because they manage, they have a library, which obviously we don't have. They have, some
Significant
way larger budget, just given their growth in recent years, but it may be worth looking at Buda just for their, because as Councilmember Medigas pointed out, they have parks and other green spaces. Utility system. Yeah, because if we're looking at a lot of these cities, they're not going to have a utility superintendent, for example, someone that needs the water, the licensing that some of our public works staff are required to have.
Yeah, I think that's important because we maintain a lot of utilities
Yeah.
that these other cities don't. And so that affects the number of staff that we need for those services.
So if I'm keeping kind of a tally, I've got Jonestown, Westlake, Alamo Heights, Bacones Heights, Shavano Park, Bee Caves, Buda, and then sort of, I think, Rollingwood, Lockhart, and Lago Vista are ones that I've either less support or been taken off by recommendation. That's 7 if we wanted to move forward to those, or if we wanted to add either Lockhart or Lago Vista or Rollingwood back in. Those would all be, within the range of things that we could consider. But
Yeah, I'm
I'm
fine. Bee Cave and Buda, I think, are important.
and then Westlake Hills would be the other one that
They don't really maintain the utilities, or they don't have
it
a
might
lot
be
of
important from a
public
public safety standpoint, though, to
works, if we're looking at it
yeah.
from that perspective.
Yeah.
And the reason I put in Rollingwood is because the population is closer to our population. And they're also close to us, and I know that we lost a police officer previously to Rollingwood.
With the current list, Mayor, so we have at least 3 or 4 in Travis County, right? With the current list, if we're not counting Rollingwood and Lago Vista. How many in Travis County do we have? We have Bee Cave, we have Westlake, and we have Buda is in Hayes. So we have those. Lakeway's in 2 counties, but I haven't heard Lakeway's not one we're considering, right? And I don't think they're very comparable to us. So we have at least 2 on the list in Travis County.
Yeah.
Which I think is important for competition.
Councilmember Johnson?
So we'll take these cities and use these for the salary survey?
Mhm.
And what do we just ask them, or is it just,
So a lot of the information is public. There's another city, Burleson, that's already collected a lot of this information. TML used to do a lot of this work, but they've stopped in recent years. They still have some data, and they have like job description templates. But the city of Burleson, Kyle, if I'm not mistaken, has like a database that they're willing to share with us. But you know, we get open records requests all the time that they want to know position, salary. You know,
Well, I mean, like, it
public
seems like
information.
I don't know, you just kind of like help each other to figure out like
Oh,
what
yeah.
the rights are.
And yeah,
You might want to ask them also what their cities are for comparison, and,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. good.
go with these, but just like kind of, I know it's almost like training a machine learning model. It's just like, how close were we when you see like the actual, if they think we are also, then, you know, a little bit of a handshake.
That's a good question.
Yeah, what else do they look at?
Especially maybe
they-
some of
yeah.
these newer cities that, like, these other urban enclaves in San Antonio, like, hey, well, who do y'all look at for your, maybe they just look
Because
at
I
each
know
other.
they do
or
the
I
same
don't
thing.
know.
I've talked to them. Yep.
Any other input from council, or anybody feel strongly about any of the cities that are on that sheet or that we haven't discussed?
I always
Could you-
thought we should.
Because
Please
we're-
reread your list.
Never had
Well,
a chance to read
This is
it.
this is listed, and I know there's some cities that I'm excluding, but just based on conversation, we can always adjust this. But Jonestown, Westlake Hills, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, Shavano Park, Bee Caves, and Buda would be the 7. And then there's 3 others that have been discussed, Rollingwood, Lockhart, and Lago Vista. And we didn't get any of the other cities mentioned, you know, that maybe wanted to essentially nominate. So that would be 7, and with the other 3, you know, that's up to potentially the 10. But again, what is representative, you know, a direct comparison for the purposes of the salary survey. Any additional data would obviously have to be taken with the caveats of that those cities would include. So, but there's others that council wants to include, or if one of those 3 cities that I listed at the end, somebody feels strongly about, then we can include those as well.
Did we want 8? Is that what it said?
Right now, I had 7 listed because I wasn't including Rollingwood, Lago Vista, or Lockhart in the list. It's just a 7 without those 3.
Do you want me to bold the ones you've?
Sure.
So Carolyn looked up, so Lago Vista is in Travis County. The Buda, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, and Shavano Park. These are the 7, right? 1, 2, 7.
While we're waiting for council to also consider that list, I'll open up for members of the public at this time as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa Gonzalez, 26 Reese. I could have a faulty memory, but I guess as a baseline, I'd like to start as close to what our other data was, because I like to be able to track what we used to have to where we're going, and I think that there's value with that. I think that the recent addition of Alamo Heights was put in to skew things upwards when people were trying to justify a previous administrator's salary. and I'm from there, and as I recall, it's Chavano, just for those of us who, that's my memory, because I grew up in San Antonio, and so Alamo Heights is a particularly different, very, very affluent, you know, Alamo Heights. I mean, Terrell Hills would probably be closer, but I don't think they have as much infrastructure as Alamo Heights does. But I mean, in terms of like the price point and the kind of wealthiness that Alamo Heights brings, and I think that's why the prices went up. But I could be wrong. But my memory is that that's why it got included, was to skew things upwards for previous price comparisons. So, so I think that's worth mentioning and looking and seeing if that's accurate, if my memory is accurate. But I went, so I just don't think that that's necessarily in line with what the other ones are. I think that, I don't know, I don't think Terrell Hills had that much infrastructure, but it's another one that's totally enclosed by San Antonio that's tiny like us. And, but I can't say how much parkland they do. They're also right by Fort Sam. Anyway, so I think that there's merit to looking at Lockhart. They're up and coming and they're a full city. And so I think that I think it's worth adding some others, and I think it's worth looking at the original list and seeing if there's anything that we should include from that. I guess that's the Melissa short, is let's go back to what we had and find a reason to disqualify, and I think that staff made some good disqualification reasons, but to me that's the baseline, and I would like people to look at Alamo Heights and to see if it's not skewing our numbers up. That's all. That's the whole of what I'm saying. Thank you.
And I think any data we bring back would be able to dive in specifically to each city. It's not that we're going to merge the data and not be able to see that. So if we did want to include Alamo Heights, we'd be able to see if that's an outlier or not, just based on the information collect. I don't recall which cities we had in the previous survey. If we have that information just for comparison.
It was 2021, sorry. And then 2018. So 2018 had Bee Cave, Cedar Park, Jonestown, Lakeway, Leander, Rollingwood, and Westlake Hills.
Okay.
Also looked at, in some, because this was like
You're
by
looking
position,
for, right.
Buda, Leander, I don't see anything new. Yeah, so, and then in 2021, excuse me, 2021 was Lakeway, Bee Cave, Lockhart, Alamo Heights, Rockwall, Buda, Kyle, Round Rock, and Georgetown. And, you know, when Kyle and I had this initial meeting, we really wanted to take out anything that had over a 50,000 population, just because then you're getting
Ridiculous.
a lot of staff and programs.
So how many staff does Alamo Heights have?
Alamo Heights has, that
103.
wasn't on this,
Okay,
103. 103.
but we've never looked at Lockhart.
Lockhart
I
has
think in
150.
2018 we looked at a few positions we compared to Lockhart. No, we didn't. Lakeway, Leander. No, I do not see Lockhart.
Who would have thought Lockhart is 14,000 population? I thought they were
They've-
smaller.
They're growing big time.
They've really
They're hot right now.
grown. And they do, you know, they manage water, wastewater, and
Yeah.
electricity. Oh, they're contracted with LCRA. And their general fund budget's only, you know,
13.
13 million.
So when we looked at Alamo Heights before, did it skew things?
So I would say the one in 2021 was, oh, sorry. So the city secretary salary is pretty comparable. That director, public works director is, the range is higher. The upper range is higher. The accountant is higher. Chief is in line. Maintenance techs look generally in line. So looks like a lot of the, at least the upper ranges are higher. We're also proposing to, the mayor and I have discussed, and I believe we discussed this at the retreat, is getting rid of our kind of static hierarchical pay scale, and since we only have so many positions, just creating a pay scale for each position. And that'll be, we'll be looking at that too, and looking at what other cities do for their, you know, do they have a pay scale by position, or do they have a grade system like we have? So that'll be a part of what we report to you all in April.
Any other thoughts, council?
So much more difficult to look at this little computer compared to,
Yeah, I know. My two screens,
you gotta
that's why I don't.
constantly work it back and forth, up and down. Yeah, it's so much more difficult.
Councilor Rodriguez?
So ideally, what's a good number?
So Caroline had a really good idea, and what if we have that the 7 highlighted are like the main, and then we have alternates. For example, if one of these 7 cities doesn't have a position that we need to compare to, or if we're looking at the, you know, can you maybe live with like staff discretion of, these are the main 7, and then what did we pointed out, Lago Vista, Lockhart, and Rollingwood
is kind of
as
the
like
alternates.
the kind of add alternates, or, you know, alternates in case we need to find a comparable position. So then we have 10.
Okay.
Because we definitely don't want, I don't think you want a salary survey of more than 10 comparisons.
That's what I was wondering. What's the
Yeah,
least
I think,
and what's the
I think
most?
8 to 9 is ideal, so then, you know, when you're looking at your sheet, you've got, you know, you've got a decent number, but you don't want it to be.
Okay. So do we include those 7 as the primary and the other 3 as alternates for staff discretion for certain positions, or to include if there's relevant information on all the positions?
Logical.
Okay.
Oops.
What are the 7 again? Bee Cave,
So Bee Cave, Jonestown,
Johnson?
Westlake Hills, Buda, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, Chavano Park. And then with the alternates being Rollingwood, Lago Vista, Lockhart.
Okay. Okay, so Rollingwood is an alternate.
Sounds like it's the basis for a motion. Councilor Medicus?
My glasses on. Make a motion that we go with the cities of Bee Cave, Jonestown, Westlake Hills, Buda, Alamo Heights, Balcones Heights, and Savannah Park as our main cities to do the comparison salary survey, and that we use Rollingwood, Lago Vista, and Lockhart as backup cities for positions that may not be included in the major cities that we're looking at.
Is there a second for that? Mayor Pro Tem seconds? Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right. And we'll be bringing this back in April timeframe?
Yeah,
I think it's when we're targeting.
We're we want to have it by hopefully first meeting in April to feed, you know,
Into the budget
into the
process,
budget
yeah.
process.
Okay. All right. Council, I saw somebody's hand eagerly raised. Councilor Medicus?
What was the third, the alternate though?
Lago Vista, Lockhart, and
Rollingwood.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second for that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned at 8:14. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. It's the new year. Oh, yeah, true.